Perfect. So today on the agenda in this second part of today's program, we have a guest, Peter Vesterbacka. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you.
And for those who don't know Peter, Peter is one of the Finnish super entrepreneurs with an amazing background and mostly known, for example, for his time on Rovio with Angry Birds, and for the moment building the Finest Tunnel, Finest Bay Area project. And we'll start off with letting Peter present himself shortly and what he's up to. Mm-hmm. So, Peter, please.
Yeah. So it's great to be here. I've been involved with a few projects over the last few years or tens of years, I guess I should say. And I've always been like an entrepreneur. Even though I started my working life, if you will, or that at HP, so a big corporation, so Vesterbackas, and that's always like good part of the story because that was like the first startup, or that's where like Bill and Dave started in their garage, and that's why we, in Palo Alto in California, and that's why we all have to suffer from all these garage stories, startups, companies started in a garage in Silicon Valley. And Bill and Dave started HP in their garage, but they also started actually the whole Silicon Valley. So that's also where I started working then at HP, and I was there for many years. But even though I was at a big corporation, I was allowed to do or had what I wanted to do, and I had a lot of freedom to make stuff happen. Otherwise, I don't think that I would have lasted there for too long. So always had this thing about challenging the status quo and the current standard business practice or always hated being told that hey you need to do things a certain way because they have always been done a certain way. So I think that's a bit part of this entrepreneurial attitude as well. But anyway, many years at HP, then doing many programs there, working with startups. I did something called the HP Bazaar. We worked with hundreds of startups around the world. So this was late 90s, early 2000s. Then one of the companies that came out of that was Rovio, and then basically Angry Birds happened. I spent a bit over 6 years at Rovio and Angry Birds as the Mighty Eagle. So my job was to make stuff happen. So that's the way I actually always defined this whole being an entrepreneur and entrepreneurship. It's all about making stuff happen and getting stuff done. So I think that's really, for me, the whole definition of entrepreneurship, and always enjoy doing things. And also around same time, so actually a bit before joining Rovio full time, started Slush together with a few friends here in Helsinki, and Slush, of course, now has become the biggest and best startup event on the planet. So that's actually not a surprise, at least not to me. I think a lot of people didn't expect it to become as big as it has now. But I think that always when you know what you're doing, you know where you're going, then you can do anything. And I think Slush is a great example of what you can do when you're working together. And I think that this is also the case if you look at, for example, now what the Quack Hackathon and what's been done here and is being done here is that it's again, getting people together, working on big problems, smaller problems, and then of course you can do anything. So I think there are very few things that are actually impossible. So always, and I think it's very much how we've always approached things here in Finland. That very few of us. But then when we have a bigger problem, like with Slush, actually we didn't set out to create the biggest and best startup event on the planet. Actually, the whole reason for Slush existing is that we needed to get more entrepreneurial mindset out there, and that's actually why Slush was created. So really like as a tool to change the world, if you will, and get more entrepreneurship going in our part of the world, so Finland, the region, and beyond. And to do that, we work together. So I mean, if you look at Slush last year, 2,600 people from more than 60 countries volunteering, making that happen. So I think that that's a great example again. That I'm like, why not? And of course, then if you look at like these kind of hackathons and these kind of events, I mean, none of us actually have to be here, like now on a Saturday or during the weekend, but we're here because we want to be here and because we want to basically make the world a better place. So kind of like solving real world problems by working together. And I think that is something that you should never like underestimate the power of that you can always solve corona crisis or whatever else we're facing by working together. And I think that that's basically what is great about what the Quack like hackathon. And I know that you guys pull it together like very rapidly, and it's also an example of learning by doing. So I've always been a big believer in actually doing things. And then, many times when you try new things, you fail, and then you try again, and then you fail again, and eventually, like after failing enough, then you're successful. But you learn a lot, and I think that the best way to learn is by doing. And one way of looking at this, what the Quack Hackathon is, that this is a fantastic opportunity to learn for another project that we are working on right now, which is Ambitious Africa. So together with Vincent, Victor, Ronnie, a few of the other guys that are pulling together this hackathon, we have been working on looking at like what could we do together with our friends in Africa to make stuff happen and get more entrepreneurship and get more like development going. And actually together with Richard, I don't know if Richard is online here as well, but already many years ago with Startup Sauna and some of the activities that we've been doing in the ecosystem here in Finland, we looked at what we could do together with our friends in Africa. So Startup Sauna went to Tanzania, Ethiopia, Kenya, and then worked together with the local like startup community, with the local entrepreneurs, with the local young people. Then we tried to pitch this to the Foreign Ministry of Finland that, hey, why don't we actually do this at scale, and why don't we do like all of Africa? And then a few years ago, I guess we were a bit too early. So the proposal that Richard put together was maybe too ambitious, and a bit again also this rule that I mentioned before, that okay, this is not the way we have done things in the past, so let's not do it now either. So I think that's many reasons why it didn't really go anywhere. But then and it's also kind of like this classic golden rule of venture capital, that is all about too early, too late. So it's all about like timing. So maybe with this Ambitious Africa, we're out a bit too early. And then now we're fortunate here in Finland, so we got like a new minister of like foreign affairs and development, Ville Skinnari, and he actually has a background in the startup community. I don't know if most of you knew that, but Ville was actually way back when he was working at a startup called Match-On.com. And Match-On.com you probably haven't heard of because they weren't successful. But you might have heard about Morten Mikkos, who was the CEO of Match-On.com back in the day, because Morten then of course, that was the learning experience, and he had some other startups, and then he went on to become the CEO of MySQL, which then went on to become one of the first unicorns out of Finland. So was sold to Sun Microsystems for $1 billion many years ago. But anyway, yeah, so Ville Skinnari, who is now our Minister of Development, Foreign Affairs, Foreign Trade, is actually, he was working at that startup. So he's one of the few like politicians, at least that I know of, that has startup experience. I mean, like real startup experience. So anyway, Ville became minister, had a meeting with him in July at the Suomi Arena, where like everybody before, let's say pre-corona crisis, every summer, all the business, politicians, culture, all the people got together in an informal setting here in Finland, in Pori, which of course is a fantastic place because it happens to be my hometown. But in the summer especially, it's like a gathering of like everybody in a very informal setting. So then also met with Ville there and said that we have this like little plan for Africa. And then said that, okay, that it's actually not so, let's say, little. And it's about actually transform Africa, and why not like work with all 54 African nations. And instead of doing this top-down kind of like thing, the idea is that why don't we do it the way we built kind of like a startup community, a ecosystem here in Finland. Do this grassroots, let's get the young people involved, but not only involved, let's put young people in charge. And then we came up with this ambitious Africa program. So met with Vincent and Victor, who set up the Envisage Accelerator together with local young entrepreneurs, local young people in Rwanda, in Africa. And I guess guys picked Rwanda because you bumped into somebody who was doing their PhD at Hanken and basically happened to be from Rwanda. And I think this is a great example of how these things happen, that you can't plan everything. There's always this kind of like you bump into somebody and then, like magic happens. And I think that this is also what is great about hackathons like this one, that you never know who you'll meet. And I think that this is also I know that we have had a lot of those kind of, let's say, more or less accidental meetings during this hackathon, and that's kind of like again where this deal room platform that we're using comes into play, because it makes it very easy to kind of like connect with people, so connect with mentors, connect with other like hackers and others. So that's something that is again great to see that we can do all of this like online. But yeah, anyway, with Ambitious Africa, then we also, you always as an entrepreneur, you need a bit of luck. Of course, it's always, it's like the best athletes, best like, people in sports and stuff, that they make their own luck. And I think that when you do stuff, then you also kind of tend to get lucky. And then what happened was that when they formed the new EU Commission, then Finland actually got the commissioner in charge of Africa, so Jutta Urpilainen. So always say that, okay, now that Finland is in charge of Africa, at least from like EU Commission perspective, then Finnish people have this like thing that when we are put in charge, then we actually have this like feeling of obligation that we actually have to do something, that we're not just like in charge or responsible, but actually we have to do something about this responsibility. So now we're working on this Ambitious Africa program, and the idea is really to work together, local young people here in Finland, in Nordic, in Europe, working with local young people in Africa. And basically when I'm asked, what are you trying to do? And then I'm saying that we're actually going to transform the continent. And we're going to like start by focusing on education. We're going to do entrepreneur. Executing on the ground in like 9 countries in Africa on that topic early years. And then entrepreneurship, as I already mentioned, to me that's all about like doing things. So we're doing stuff. And then I'm asked like, yeah, but what about like this 30 in this triple E thing, entertainment? Okay, that's all about realizing that we are always competing for people's time. So, right now, what the Quack Hackathon, we're competing for, people's time. So instead of being here, watching me, listening to me, ramble on here, you could also, like put up Netflix, and maybe some of you are doing that right now. But anyway, and you could watch, like the latest TV, hit or a movie or something like that. Or, you might, switch on your mobile phone or whatever and play, the latest hit game, or, pick up your Nintendo Switch and play Animal Crossing like a lot of people are doing. So we're always competing for what people can do with their time. So we need to make sure that whatever we do, we deliver fantastic experiences in education, in entrepreneurship, so that we can actually get people engaged and involved in doing things like, changing the world. So that's kind of like what we're trying to do, or actually not only trying, we are doing that with this Ambitious Africa project. And I talked to a person that I met at Tech Chill in Riga in Latvia like a couple of weeks ago, and Rose, and she's from Tanzania. And then I was sharing this like, okay, we're gonna transform Africa, and then you could tell from her face that, okay, yeah, one of these guys again, I've heard this before. And then I said, no, this is very different. This time it's not about your government in Tanzania, like telling you what to do. It's actually you telling the government what they need to do to make, your nation, your environment better. And then I shared a story of what happened actually in Finland, and this was early days of Slush, a couple of years after we started Slush. Then our then Prime Minister Jyrki Katainen, he was at the World Economic Forum summer event in Dalian in China. And so this is a gathering of ministers, other important people. So Jyrki Katainen, the Prime Minister of Finland, was chairing a roundtable on entrepreneurship. And he was talking about what was going on in Finland and what had happened. And then you had in the audience then Gordon Brown, former Prime Minister of the UK. You had a bunch of ministers and other dignitaries, if you will. And then somebody asked Jyrki that, how did you guys in Finland make this amazing explosion in startups, in entrepreneurship? Like, how did you make it happen? And then Jyrki Katainen, Prime Minister of Finland, answers that, I don't know. Prime Minister of Finland saying that he doesn't know. Of course, he knew very well, and he'd been to Slush many times, and followed the explosion in startups and explosion of the ecosystem here and all of that. But he wanted to make the point that it was not the government that made it happen; it was the young people. It was grassroots. That's how it happened. And this is what I explained to Rose, from Tanzania, that this is why it's different. And then she got it, that this is why Ambitious Africa will be a fantastic success story, and we already have the young people executing on this, and we're going to have a big launch event, hopefully using many of the same approaches, the same platforms that we are testing now at What the Quack this weekend. So 26th of May, we'll have a massive Ambitious Africa launch event online. So I think this is, again, a great example of the crisis now creating new approaches and actually enabling us to move much faster and making stuff happen, much faster than we could before the crisis. Because now it's just accepted that, of course, we can do everything online because we have to. Like if you look at what is happening in education, in a matter of days, or actually I should say weeks, we have now over 1 billion young people, about 1 billion kids doing their home or their school from their homes. So they're all online and they're doing their school from home. They're not going to school. Okay, it's not working perfectly like everywhere. Here in Finland we coped very well. It took us a couple of days, and now all the kids are online doing the school from their homes. And before this, if somebody would have told you that, oh, in Finland we're going to do this digital transformation of our educational system and it's going to take 2 days. And then, you would probably be told that, hey, you're crazy. It can't be done, 2 days. That's like impossible. But again, it wasn't impossible. It was very much possible. So now we have actually done this digital transformation. Okay, not perfectly, but we have proven that it's possible. So if we can do digital transformation of educational system in 2 days, transforming Africa, all 54 nations, in 5 years, how difficult can it be? So I think that this is again an example of crises leading to opportunities and also leading to fewer people questioning the possibility of various things. Of course, everything is possible and it's up to us to make it happen. So we're gonna talk more about ambitious Africa over the next few weeks, and then a lot more on the 26th of May when we actually launch the program, and we're going to involve all 54 nations in Africa. Of course, there's like some wars and stuff going on, so that might, slow some of the areas, some of the nations down. But ambition is to transform the continent in 5 years. Young people in Africa working together with young people from the rest of the world, and that's how it's going to happen. But anyway, I could go on and on for a long time, but I think it's much more interesting if you make this interactive, and we can open up for questions, comments, and all of that. So I'll stop my rambling right here.
Thank you, Peter, so much. So the topic Peter is covering during this keynote is actually hacking problems globally. So now it's your opportunity to actually ask questions about this topic from Peter, or any questions you have regarding this hackathon. So Peter has been to many hackathons. He has been super helpful to us. So thank you so much, Peter, for all the help that you have given us. It's really insightful to have you here, and thanks to you, we have 7 different time zones attending this hackathon this time. So we're really global bunch of people. So please turn off some questions in the chat so Peter can answer. Yes, let's go on with that. So please, the stage is yours. If there is not dropping any questions, and I could start off. Oh yeah, there's a question. Good.
Yeah, and it's perfectly okay to ask anything. So, as they always say, there are no stupid questions, only stupid people, right? I don't know if that encourages you to ask questions, but at least I have to try.
Can you, Peter, see the questions there came?
Right. So, difference in internet infrastructure and affecting development. I think that, of course, there is correlation between the infrastructure and development of the ecosystem. But I think that also it's not always though. If you have great infrastructure, you will have great development. If you look at Africa, that I now talked about a bit, I mean, Africa has been leading the way when it comes to moving away from traditional banking, because I mean they didn't have that in many places. So a lot of the mobile payments and mobile money transfers and all that were actually you could even say invented in Africa, and if not invented, they were actually implemented in Africa first, because there was a lack of traditional infrastructure, in this case banking. So I think that lack of infrastructure and always lack of services, there's a positive impact on innovation. So I think that there's always innovation coming out of the lack of resources and scarcity of stuff in general. So it's actually can be a very, very positive impact if you don't have the resources. Then you have to out of necessity you have to innovate. So I think that it can be very good. Then Okay, so then about like how to engage stakeholders and the process. So yeah, typically the way I do things that when I need to talk to somebody, I give them a call or send them a message, and it's worked pretty well so far. And then I think that it's very important to engage people, so not just like run around telling people what they need to do, but actually ask them what they need, what we can do for them, what we can do together. So I think that that is always, no matter what kind of like level of stakeholder and all of that. I mean, people are people. It doesn't matter if they're, prime minister of a country or like some celebrity or VIP or something like that. I mean, I think that that is. One important learning that I've had. I mean, that you can always approach people, and of course, I mean, not all people are nice, but I would say that for the most part, most people are nice people, and I think this is something that again, there's and what is kind of like the worst thing that might happen when you ask somebody for help? I mean, they might say no, but that's no big deal. Then you ask the next one. So always engage people, share what you're doing, give people the opportunity to contribute. I think that's like super important in any project. And then, question if this is part of the Finnish Africa strategy. We had a meeting with the Foreign Ministry of Finland like a couple of weeks ago, and they told us that this ambitious Africa could be like part of the Finnish Africa strategy. And then, those of you who know me are probably not surprised to hear that then my comment was that maybe the Finnish Africa strategy could be part of ambitious Africa. So, I mean, you can always look at these things from like different perspective. But yes, we are looking at, the Finnish Africa strategy being part of this, or us being part of that, or the EU Africa strategy, we can be part of that. So I think that it's again a level playing field, and I think the better we can work together with all the different stakeholders, the better it is for kind of like the world and for all of us. So I think that it's very important to work together, and there's more than enough for everybody to do. And we actually had a kickoff for Ambitious Africa, and we had most of the entrepreneurship societies of Finland represented there, and we also had Ville Skinnari, the minister, was there. So I think that we have a very, very good example of private-public partnership. We have an example of, young people and the government and slightly older people, working together. So I think it's off to a good start from kind of like collaboration and integrating different strategies. Let's see. So then comment that I think that the comment by Peter, the other Peter there, that crisis always brings out lots of opportunities. So again, that's something that I really believe in. And if I look at now the last 2 weeks of also myself working, from home and online, I don't think that I've ever been, or let's say, never say never, but or ever, but I've been super busy the last couple of weeks and connecting with people all over the planet. And what's been amazing now is that everybody's online and you can get a hold of people fairly easily. So even more easily than during like non-crisis times. So I think that again, good example of what we're doing here as well. That getting people together, working on solving these massive real-world problems over a weekend, and we had like the Hack the Crisis here in Finland, that hackathon, and then we 2 weeks before or a week before we had the Hack the Crisis in Estonia, and I guess next weekend we have the Hack the Crisis like global. So everybody kind of like coming together and working together on solving the big problems. So I think that again. The crisis is making a lot of positive impact as well, and I'm of course like the eternal optimist myself, so I always kind of like tend to look at the bright side, and of course lots of serious problems and serious challenges for many businesses, But I think that we need to work on solving those, addressing those together, and there's nothing better than a crisis to bring people together. So let's see. Rapidly developing technologies that I'm particularly excited about. So yeah, one thing on like technology and excitement and all of that. So I think that if you look at the world and we look at technology, so it's very important to like understand the problems and the challenges, and then applying technology to address kind of like those problems and challenges. And then, of course, understanding technology, then maybe you can also identify new opportunities, early and before other people. So I think that's always like great. So I think that what I'm kind of always saying is that we shouldn't get carried away by the technology and like the excitement of the latest buzzword, be it VR, AR, AI. There's always been this alphabet soup of amazing new stuff. So I think that this is something that we always see. And one example that I use, and actually from the area of education. So many years ago, I was actually in Moscow, meeting with the education ministry of Russia, and I was there with Steve Wozniak, so the co-founder of Apple. And then Steve Wozniak, who he's a great guy and all of that, but then he told the Russian education ministry that we are going to replace teachers with computers. And then like the Russian education ministry were like, okay, so you're going to replace all the teachers with computers. And of course, I think it's like safe to say that then they were kind of like, okay. And then, and I think that it's an example of this kind of a little bit of a naive belief in being able to solve everything with, in this case, computers and, technology. And I think that's an example of kind of like underestimating, in this case, a little bit like the work being done by, teachers and any profession that typically it's not like, okay, let's just replace you guys with computers. I don't think that we have many areas or many jobs where that is happening. So I think that, and it's a little bit like also a few years ago, you had this project, one laptop per child, and then, shipping a bunch of laptops to villages in Africa. And then, wondering that, why are they like using these laptops? And, and then, but you could also ask, and you should ask yourself that, okay, if you're sitting there at MIT in Boston, and then, you might think that everybody needs a laptop because you have one. But I think that it also shows a fairly like big ignorance of like reality on the ground, like in this case in Africa, that you're thinking that, every child should have a laptop. Now we, of course, we laugh about it and we're like, okay, how could anybody like think that we could solve, problem by like giving everybody a laptop? But we have a lot of these kind of examples where we overestimate the technology and the technological like ability. So I think that always start with reality and then apply technology to that, and not kind of like the other way around. Yeah, let's see. More questions. Marketing. And what about that? Yes. So my thinking around marketing and always when I was at Rovio and Angry Birds, when people asked me about marketing and branding and like all of that, then I said that everything we do is marketing. Or you could also look at it as that none of the things we do is marketing. And what I meant about that, and if you look at now like a startup, and thinking about marketing, that it's not like a separate activity. I mean, everything you do is marketing. It's all part of the experience. And if you have kind of like this kind of separation that, okay, let's build a fantastic service, let's build a fantastic product, and then, oh, now we need to market this, then I think that you're already kind of like a bit behind, and you're kind of like not doing it right. I mean, marketing, when you do it right, then people don't even kind of like realize that it's marketing, and that's what I mean, that it's just like built into the experience. So you don't feel like somebody is doing like a hard sell on you or anything like that. That it's really, the brand and the marketing is part of the overall experience. It's not like a separate activity that, oh, now the engineers build the product, so let's give it to marketing. I mean, if the marketeers don't understand what the engineers have built, if the engineers don't understand the value and how to communicate it, then I think that it's probably not going to be like very successful. So it needs to be like super integrated, and it has to be part of like the overall like approach. So having this kind of like siloed, separated approach typically doesn't work. So always think about marketing from even before you start. I think that you need to do marketing and like understand the market and all of that. So that's my thinking. And then maybe one more thing on the marketing question is that if you're a startup, you're not alone. So there are thousands, tens of thousands, there are millions of startups competing for the attention. So it's a little bit like my entertainment example earlier, that we're competing for people's time, for people's attention. So the most important thing for you is to stand out. So basically figuring out why should people care about you and your startup. You really need to answer the question that why are you different? And in this case, different, hence better. So really, really think about the differentiation, personal level, company level, service level. How do you stand out? That's something that is, I think, really, really important, because most markets right now are not suffering from, like a shortage of products and services. There's an abundance of services, abundance of products out there. So your job is to make sure that people pick your product, your service. So really think about like how you stand out. And this is true not only for startups, but it's true for bigger companies. It's true for like all of us as well, like as individuals, as companies. Really think about like how you stand out. So, okay, let me see more questions. Collaborative research. So I think that collaboration is always needed. There are very few things that you can do like alone and in isolation from everybody else. So this is, when you're talking about collaborative research, research is no exception. I think that always when you share your ideas with others, that typically makes your idea better. And people are, for the most part, very happy to give their feedback, help make your idea better. So I think that with research as well, that and I mean that's of course very much part of course, like the whole academic community, that it is about sharing for the most part. But I think also that we shouldn't limit it to academia, but it's also like the academic community needs to also work closely with the companies, with the startups, with the private sector, with everybody. So building these kind of like walls between different actors, different players is typically not very productive. So collaboration, openness, transparency, very powerful tools in making stuff happen. So I'm a big believer in that. And I'm being told that we have 5 minutes left. So do we have? Okay, there's. Yeah, so I just agree on like what Marino's asked about, like this engagement. So I think that we always need people and companies to engage, and the more collaboration and let's say working together we can do, then the better. So I think that's something that's super important in general.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Peter, for all the answers. If anyone has any more questions, Peter can also be found on Deal Room or on Slack. So please post any more questions there, and I think Peter will answer as soon as he can to all the
and I also have like some slots available. So if you want to use like the matchmaking tool on Deal Room, just like book one of the 20-minute meetings. More than happy to talk. So that's kind of like what I'm here for. So happy to help and happy to mentor. So just book a meeting and we can talk more.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Peter, for taking the time to do this keynote. As Peter said, please book meetings with Peter because he is here to help and he has an amazing background to support your doings. Now, let's continue the hackathon and we'll see each other again at 4 p.m. here at the live stream. Thank you, and thank you, Peter, once again.
Thank you. See you soon.